New York City was loud, relentless, and cold. Especially at street level, the sidewalks, the steam vents, the alleyways, that was where people stopped looking. That's why Agent Elijah Kane chose it. He sat slumped against a graffiti-stained wall near the Canal Street station, wrapped in a torn army jacket and surrounded by half-empty fast food containers. His beard was real, his limp wasn't. The sign at his feet read, "Anything helps, God bless." No one gave him a second glance. But Elijah wasn't there for change. He was deep undercover for the FBI, tracking a black market data broker known only as Circuit, who ran information deals through a network of invisible couriers, the homeless. Cash, flash drives, burner phones, passed unnoticed, handed off like spare change, flowing through the city beneath the noise. For 3 months, Elijah lived on the streets. He earned the trust of a tight group of street dwellers. Learned their names, their stories. He shared food. He slept on cardboard. He listened. That's when he found Reggie, a young man who didn't talk much, but always had clean hands and new shoes. Something didn't fit. Elijah followed him. Reggie led him to a blind alley behind a shuttered bodega, where a woman in a pristine white coat handed him a package. Reggie slipped it into his bag and walked away. That night, Elijah intercepted him. The package? A burner phone loaded with encrypted files. It was a direct link to Circuit. Elijah reported in. The bureau told him to wait. They were planning a sting. But Elijah knew Circuit was getting ready to vanish, too many dead ends, too much silence. So he acted. He baited the network, leaking that he had a major buyer, someone who'd pay big for Circuit's full client list. 3 nights later, at 3:12 a.m., a sleek black SUV pulled into the alley. A man stepped out. Face covered. Calm. Measured. "You Kane?" he asked. Elijah froze. The alias had slipped. He hadn't told anyone his name. A trap. Guns raised. Chaos exploded. But Elijah was faster. He neutralized one, disarmed the other, and chased the masked man into the dark. By dawn, Circuit was in custody. The FBI recovered over 100 stolen identities, insider trading files, and connections to a major government leak. But Elijah? He stayed on the street for 3 more days. Just long enough for the network to collapse without realizing the beggar had been the blade at its throat all along. 3 weeks after Elijah Kane dismantled the Circuit network, things had gone quiet. Too quiet. Circuit was in custody, locked up in a high-security federal facility in Virginia, but something felt off. Elijah could feel it, the stillness before a storm. He'd been reassigned, cleaned up, back in a suit, back in the office. But he couldn't shake the feeling he was still being watched. Then came the photo. Delivered in an unmarked envelope. Slipped under his apartment door. It was a grainy, black and white still frame. A snapshot from a traffic cam. It showed Elijah walking down the street. He looked normal. Civilian. Clean-shaven. But in the background, just out of focus, a man in rags. Standing still. Watching. The image was labeled, Ragged Man Number 3. They're watching you now. The FBI's tech team traced the envelope's origin to a street corner near Union Square. Elijah went back undercover, not as a beggar this time, but as himself, walking the same route, waiting to see if the watchers would reappear. They did. 3 different homeless figures. 3 different days. Same blank stares. Same motionless posture. Like statues. Like puppets. Elijah approached one. Quietly. "Who sent you?" he asked. The man didn't flinch. Just muttered something under his breath. "They know what you did. The system's wide. You just cut one arm." That night, Elijah hacked into Circuit's seized laptop, going deeper than the FBI had dared. What he found wasn't a name or a face. It was a list. A cleaner network. People off the grid. Not just hackers or thieves, assassins, moles, sleepers. Paid in crypto, controlled through dead drops and burner systems. And next to one of the names on the list, Elijah Kane, marked for removal. The next morning, his handler, Director Myers, was gone. Her house empty. Her files erased. Elijah realized something terrifying. Circuit got caught on purpose. To get inside. To stall. To trigger a deeper system. And now, the real game had begun. They burned his ID. Froze his accounts. Flagged him as rogue. Elijah Kane was officially disavowed. Not because he broke the rules, but because the people who wrote them were compromised. The cleaner network had sunk deep into the system. Not just FBI. Homeland. NSA. Even Interpol. The more Elijah tried to surface, the more doors closed. His allies vanished. His name, now whispered in coded forums as the Ghost. A threat. A liability. A target. So he disappeared. He went dark, off the grid. Burned everything. Became smoke. Elijah resurfaced 2 months later in Prague, wearing second-hand clothes, a Czech passport under the name Tomas Varga, and a new purpose: find the central node of the cleaner network and cut the head off the snake. His only clue? A name buried in a fragment of Circuit's corrupted files, K. Bishop, handler level. Codename, Harrow. No face. No photo. No confirmed location. Just a digital signature that pinged briefly on a dark web auction site selling access to live intel feeds from inside the Pentagon. Whoever Harrow was, he had power, the kind that didn't ask permission. Elijah tracked the signal to a crumbling tower block in the outskirts of Bratislava, where a contact, a former hacker turned street informant known only as Milo, lived in hiding. Milo didn't speak. He typed. "You shouldn't have come here." Harrow sees through cameras. If you're reading this, he already knows. Then Milo's laptop shorted out. Overheated. Seconds later, boom. The building shook. A charge. A kill switch. They were silencing anyone who got too close. But Elijah got out. Barely. He didn't just survive. He stole something. A flash drive hidden inside Milo's burner phone, with partial coordinates, a timestamp, and 2 words burned into the file name, Red Rain. It wasn't just a target. It was an operation. And the timer was already ticking. The flash drive smelled faintly of burnt plastic. Whatever Milo had uncovered, someone had tried to melt it out of existence. But Elijah Kane had friends in dark corners, and one of them owed him a favor. In a smoky basement in Budapest, a retired MI6 tech named Ren resurrected the drive. What it revealed wasn't a plan, it was a countdown. A set of coordinates. A date, May 17th. And a single executable file named redrain.exe. Ren cracked part of the code. What they found chilled the air. Red Rain wasn't a cyber attack. It was a signal cascade. A digital kill switch that would infect surveillance systems in 6 major cities, forcing them to go blind for exactly 11 minutes. During that window, synchronized Black Ops teams, cleaners, would execute high-value removals. Journalists. Whistleblowers. 2 ex-agents. A federal judge. A presidential advisor. All marked. All in the way. And one name stood out in the kill list, Elijah Kane, Tier 1 threat. They weren't just trying to silence him. They were restructuring the world. Elijah had 13 days. He couldn't go to the FBI. They'd label him a traitor. He couldn't warn the targets. That would trigger red rain early. So he did what only a ghost could do, he started hunting the cleaners. One by one, city to city. In Paris, he intercepted a courier with a signal disruptor disguised as a coffee thermos. In Berlin, he slipped into a CleanSafe server room and short-circuited a red rain deployment node. In Istanbul, he left a message for Harrow, spray-painted on a wall across from a known network safe house: "I know what you're doing. I'm not alone." But the clock kept ticking. And as the date approached, Elijah realized the true horror. Red rain wasn't just about silencing threats. It was a trial run. And if it worked, the next version wouldn't last 11 minutes. It would last forever. May 17th, 3:42 a.m. in Manhattan, the city buzzed, oblivious. From a rooftop in Tribeca, Elijah Kane watched the skyline through a broken pair of binoculars. Below, traffic. Sirens. Life. No one knew what was coming. Except him. He had traced the last red rain control node to New York City, hidden inside a corporate shell tower owned by Tessarian Global, a front company flagged years ago in black-budget surveillance. He'd been inside once. As an agent. Now he was breaking in as a ghost. The final code to disarm red rain was locked behind biometric access, tethered to one person. Harrow. And Harrow wasn't a phantom anymore. 2 nights ago, Elijah finally saw his face. A grainy frame from a mirrored glass panel in Zurich. Kevin Bishop. Former CIA strategist. Presumed dead. Architect of over a dozen great missions that never made it into official files. Now the master of the cleaner network. He'd faked his death. Slipped through the cracks. Built an empire from the dust of secrecy. And now he sat behind bulletproof glass in a high-rise control room with one hand on a kill switch that would blind the world. 5:13 a.m., Tessarian Tower. Elijah breached the tower dressed like a maintenance tech. His weapon was silent. His mind, razor sharp. He bypassed floor sensors using an old service shaft. Knocked out a cleaner with a pressure choke and took his access band. He didn't hesitate. He couldn't. At 5:29, alarms blared. He was seen. At 5:31, gunfire echoed in the 42nd floor stairwell. By 5:33, Elijah reached the control room. And Harrow was waiting. Suited. Calm. Smiling. "You've come a long way, Kane," he said. "But you're too late. 11 minutes of darkness, and we reset the world. No more shadows. Just silence." Elijah aimed. Harrow raised his hand, holding a detonator wired to the red rain servers. "You shoot me, it goes live anyway." Silence. Then Elijah smiled. Just a little. "You ever wonder why you got caught on that camera in Zurich?" Harrow's eyes narrowed. "I wanted you to see me." "No," Elijah interrupted. "I wanted you to see me." And at that moment, Harrow's laptop blinked. Signal compromised. Red rain program, disabled. Remote override, REN. She'd been watching from the start. And the moment Harrow accessed the system, she locked him out. Checkmate. Harrow lunged. Too slow. Elijah fired. One shot. 11 minutes never came. 1 week later, Elijah sat on a bench in Central Park. No beard. No gun. No shadows. Ren walked up with a brown bag lunch. "They're rebuilding," she said. "So will we," Elijah replied. He looked out at the skyline. Still standing. Still watching. But this time, so was he. Title: Ragged Justice, Epilogue. After the storm 5 years later, London. The sun had long set behind the Thames, casting an orange glow over the skyline. The city was quiet, but underneath, something hummed. Elijah Kane leaned against the edge of a high-rise balcony, his gaze fixed on the lights of the city below. He hadn't come to London to rest. He hadn't come for peace. He'd come for the one thing that still haunted him, the last file. In the wake of the Red Rain shutdown, the world had started to rebuild. Governments restructured. Surveillance systems were recalibrated. But some things never changed. Kevin Bishop was dead, but Harrow's influence lived on, hidden in the dark corners of global intelligence, scattered into 1,000 fragmented cells. And there was always someone who needed to be taken down. A knock at the door. Elijah turned, his posture straightening. Inside his small apartment stood a woman. Young. Sharp. Eyes that looked like they had seen too much. She was an agent. An old contact from his time at the bureau. "Kane," she said, glancing around the room like it might collapse on her. "The list is back. We have a situation." She handed him a flash drive. The kind he used to carry with him when everything was in black and white. Now it was personal. "I'm done," Elijah replied, his voice cold. She stepped closer, her voice a little more urgent. "You're never done, Elijah. You can't be. Not when it's like this." He took the drive. He knew what it meant. He knew it would lead him down a path that would pull him from the shadows, back into the game. It was inevitable. The ghosts never really leave. Elijah stood at the door for a moment, his back to her. Then he glanced back, his voice steady. "I don't work for anyone anymore. But I'll make sure this one doesn't go dark." The agent nodded. She knew what he meant. He didn't need orders. He never had. You still have time to turn back. It doesn't have to be you anymore. Elijah's expression softened just for a second, but then he locked eyes with her, hard, like steel. It's never about time. It's about doing the right thing. And just like that, the door shut. London, 6:15 p.m. Elijah was already gone. The world had learned a lesson. The ghosts always return. And ragged justice was never truly over.